Welcome to Dream, Declare, Deliver with your host, Chris Carell. Join us each week as we explore how to live a life by design by applying the tools and techniques of emotional intelligence and personal transformation. Here's Chris.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hello. Good day to you wherever you are. This is Dream, Declare, Deliver, and I'm your host, Chris Carell. And today I am just so delighted to be joined again by Dr. Stacy Feiner, but also her colleague, Dr. Kathy Overbeke. They are writing a much needed new book that I hope is going to be a foundational book for psychology going forward. It's something that I'm very excited about and that I've been in conversation with Stacy over the past 6 months or more as they begin writing it. So first and foremost, guys, what's the title of the book and where is it going to be published and all that kind of stuff?
Chris, thanks for having us on. Actually, you were at one of our early dinners.
Right.
When we were talking about the book, and your input it's always so important and helpful. So thanks for having us on. The book is called The Sixth Level. Capitalize on the power of women's psychology for sustainable leadership.
Outstanding.
Yes, it's kind of a multi-layered book. It is the sixth level, which is the added level to Maslow's hierarchy. Maslow's hierarchy stopped at the fifth level, which he labeled self-actualization. And what we've discovered in research on women is that, in fact, women go to a sixth level of development, which we've called self in relation. So we go from self-actualization, which is a period of development where people become capable and open to reaching their own potential. And then the sixth level, which is self in relation, is where people have this immense curiosity to learn about themselves through the eyes of someone else, and for that other person to learn about themselves through the eyes of others. And this is really the premise of the book, and it's really the premise of mutuality. It's this state of two-way empathy. Yeah. And so, yes, the book is really, it's asserting a new level of psychological development born out of the research of women's psychology that all of us need and should learn to be great leaders.
Right. Absolutely. Kathy, why did you get involved in the book? What was your part in that?
Okay. Well, actually, I have a background in studying daughters in family businesses. So that cool. Sort of lends itself to this discussion of women and leadership. So so Stacey invited me in to help with the research. And we've had many extensive conversations about women and leadership and what we've learned from the narratives that we've received from the contributors.
Yeah. And my experience is that so often those qualities of women leaders are often put down or seen as not as powerful or whatever as what the typical masculine characteristics of competitiveness and dog eat dog and all that, stuff that we've been fed. So how does that play in? Is it just at the sixth level or do you see this kind of stuff playing out in all of the levels of development where there's a slightly different approach to it?
Well, I mean, to broaden the question just a little bit, women's psychology or psychology, mainstream psychology, up until the 70s, the early 1970s, psychological research was done predominantly, almost exclusively on men. And so the findings of human psychology was really based on men's psychology and then generalized to the whole population. Right. So we're not necessarily refuting in this book the psychological development of men. What we are saying is that there's a different psychological development process for women. And when humans are contributing to society equally, then we get the benefit of each other's psychology, right? Because
so you see it as a both and, as opposed to a replacement theory.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah. That's a very important point, because what we are saying is that some of the attributes that women use in leadership can be used by men, and many men are using them.
Oh, yeah.
But not enough. And I think because of the psychological system in which men are raised, they sometimes are resistant to learn the lessons that women offer.
Right. And it's the same reason why I wrote Learning to Feel is, that so often we men have been taught not to feel, or if we're taught to feel, it was anger, rage, and numbness, as our triumvirate of feelings out on the playing field or wherever we were as boys growing up. We were told not to feel. And that makes us good soldiers. That makes us good, obedient soldiers when we get into battle or things like that is like, you listen to the commander, you don't have feelings about this. And so I had a compelling need to say, no, it's not that way. We're human beings and we're born with these emotions. And what I hear you guys saying in the book is it's not exclusive of male psychology, which, we all agree was just white elite males. It wasn't just men. It was the white elite males at certain feeder colleges like Cambridge and Oxford and Harvard and places like that, Princeton and so on, where all the researchers were. But it's not exclusive of that. It's a weaving together of, there are these other attributes like emotions for me. There are other attributes. What would you say would be the one or two or three, maybe one from each of you, key distinctions that, women's psychology has to offer as really great leadership skills?
Ooh,
put you on the spot for that one.
Well, I'll cue Kathy up for that, just to emphasize a little bit on the differences of the way women are socialized and boys are socialized and girls are socialized. So very simply, but accurately, of course, generalized, boys have three phases. So we're born. So this isn't necessarily a biologically based argument, though certainly biology is relevant, though we don't capture it in our book. We don't need to. So we're born, and there are, let's just say, three phases. Boys grow initially to separate from their parental figure, their mother figure. So boys are different from their mothers from a gender perspective, and they learn to be other than their mother. So, and oftentimes in the absence of a caring or loving or emotionally demonstrative father, there's a void in how boys learn to be emotional and to express emotion.
To add to that, there's often, an initiation ritual of boy against father, that the boy has to break free from the father if the father is present, almost, come to fisticuffs to fight their way free and be an individual. You're so right on that developmental phase.
So I think what you'll see, so there are three phases of both men and women, or boys and girls, that basically mirror each other, or are the opposite of each other. And all, let me just say, all in the context of a dominant society that forces a dichotomy of you're either, the feminine and emotional, or you're the masculine and dominant. So we're in a system. So you can add many things to these phases, because the entire system is built on this false dichotomy that we must have one or the other. So just really quickly, and again, you can read the book, but and we can pre-order the book on www.thesixthlevel.com, should anybody be so inclined.
Say that again so that we hear it.
www.thesixthlevel.com.
All one word.
So
the sixth level.
So boys are raised to separate from their mother. Then they have, the second is very rigid expression. They have rigid parameters on how they express themselves. And then later in life, what we've discovered or what we've called the fear of the feminine, which is actually in the book reference to Boulding, but the fear of the feminine. So if you think about the biggest, most frightening insult that you could give to a man is to feminize him. And so there's this notion that if you are anything like female, you are not masculine. And
You're
so
less
anyway,
than, yeah.
those are the three things. So then on the women's side, and I'm going to cue you up, Kathy, is, women grow in connection, to be like their mothers, to find allegiance or similarities or attachment with their mother. And that comes with a host of their own challenges, right? But still learning connection, and then having a wide range of expression, emotional expression, and then 6th level leadership. So mutuality, the ability to connect and express oneself in connection with others. So anyway, and there's a gap. So by the time we're adults, men are fearing the feminine and women are seeking connection. And so you have this gap that we are experiencing in our lives that make it really difficult for us to coexist.
Right.
In a healthy way. Kat?
Yeah.
What are the qualities?
Well, let me talk a little bit about how that development translates into leadership. There are some really wonderful stories showing the ethic of care that women tend to prioritize. Now, again, there are a lot of men who also care about their employees, but the way that these women implement it is unusual and remarkable. For example, there is one woman during the pandemic. Now, of course, there was a small group of employees, but during the pandemic, she was under a lot of pressure she was creating masks out of a fabric that she had invented that was microbial. I can't think of the word now, but anyway.
Microfiber.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was resistant to germs. And so during this time, there was a lot of pressure to get all these masks made, but she would take time during the day to have the employees dance together. They would take a dance from TikTok, and one person would teach the others how to do that. Now, she said during that time, she would be thinking to herself, we need to use this time to get our work done. But what she found was if she skipped it, they got less work done. That taking the time to care for the employees actually results in more productivity.
Yeah, that's
and
so true.
There's many stories like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, by the way, is an example of one of the 4 core differentiators, which in the book is identified as ingenuity. That women bring ingenuity to society, that women bring ingenuity to our communities. And ingenuity in the book is defined as the ability to solve complex problems with innovative solutions that serve everyone, that serve many.
Right. Instead of just a problem resolution kind of model that is straight as an arrow, let's go to the bottom line, let's, like drive to the finish to solve this problem. When I do workshops with executives and leadership teams, I'll often throw out a problem. And the thing that's most astounding to me is they go immediately to work, and I'll let them go for a little bit, and then I'll say, okay, stop. What's missing here? And they go like, well, they fumble around. I said, no, what's missing here is you never stopped at first to think about the problem, to come up with a plan about the problem. I love John Cleese's model of creativity, to sit with the discomfort of the problem enough that it will percolate the creativity. So what's powerful about just taking time to dance is it gets you out of your head, first off, and out of that logic mode and into your body and into a body experience. And there's so much more wisdom in this thing here than there is in this thing here, I found out over the years. So there is a wisdom to that. I just have to say, parenthetically, I'm working with another man to create a rite of passage, an initiation into eldering for men. Because we do a lot of rite of passage work for boys to men and for men into leadership, but there's no sanctification anymore of the elder role, and the wisdom. What we're going to do with this workshop is really dig into what is the wisdom of the elder, and it comes from the body. It comes from the wounds, the wisdom of the wound, because that's where we learn so much more than in our successes. So, this whole masculine model of achievement is all about drive to success and resume bullet points. And, what you learn as an elder is that doesn't even matter anymore. What matters in life is the wisdom that you gain from the experience itself, the bodily experience, and drawing from that to teach others from that. So
that's beautiful.
We're coming back around. I see us coming back around to embracing what you're talking about as one of the core principles of womanist leadership. So we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business is it's the birthplace of a lot of possibility, right? I mean, you have communities that people come volitionally to this workplace. It used to be brick and mortar, but now it's just kind of the name of the company, and this is the company we work for. And it brings together people who volitionally show up. And so the opportunity to create prosperous, sustainable, rewarding, and fulfilling communities and cultures is really the litmus test. So the 4 core differentiators, the fourth one is intrinsic motivation. And essentially the leader brings an intrinsic need or purpose or compulsion to serve the community. It's what Kathy mentioned as the ethic of care, which is also mentioned a lot in Carol Gilligan's early work.
Right.
So this notion of the ethic of care and bringing people together so that they also choose to want to be in this fulfilling environment. And it's just interesting, Chris, when you talk about how men somehow there isn't an appreciation for the elder. And that's for sure something in our culture. I know that a woman by the name of Cindy Gallup is spending quite a bit of time helping to break through ageism.
Yeah, right.
And one of the things that she's saying is that women above 50, older than 50, are a very critical part of the workforce. And we are ready. Women are ready to bring ingenuity into the workforce with all of these wisdoms. Yeah. And men perhaps are also needing an opportunity to exit with dignity and also with purpose.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Something that's, interesting.
Where they come together. Yeah.
Right.
So I have a question for both of you, because you both work in a lot with family-run businesses. And how do I say this politely? The young women of the family are slighted in preference to or in deference to the young men of the family in terms of succession. How do you get that turned around? How do you Kathy, you were talking about working with girls and women in the business. How do we bump our heads against or break a hole in that, and I'll call it sexist, because that's what it is. It's that sexist model that says the boys are more capable of running this business than the girls are. Hello? How do you see that playing out for you guys?
Well, that's actually a different topic than what we're talking about in the book. Although I think the way that it's related is that these stories demonstrate that women, even though they may appear to be unbusinesslike, are very effective business leaders. So, I think this book is very important in getting that message out so that parents, and particularly fathers, if they were the founders or the leaders of the business, so they can see that maybe they've been overlooking something in their daughters. So I think this book will be very helpful in that respect. But you bring up a topic that is very much under the radar. Most people don't realize that daughters are experiencing. It's a form of discrimination.
Yeah, right.
I've been trying to find another way to describe it, but that's what it is.
Call it what it is, yeah.
Yeah, and many daughters don't even realize that they are experiencing that because to them, it's just natural.
It's part of the family dynamic.
That is it. So, like, for example, when I was doing my research, I would call up daughters and say, I want to talk to you about your family business. And the first thing they would say to me is, oh, you should talk to my brothers because I don't know anything about it. So,
right.
And they don't even realize, well, why don't you know anything and they know everything?
Yeah, right. How come they've been getting all the, the information, and all the mentoring, and you haven't been getting that same mentoring? Yeah, that's right. Really the question.
But they don't realize it. Go ahead.
And Kathy and I wrote a paper on a socio-psychological concept called homeostasis. And homeostasis is, in the scientific world, really basically the system, the human, the biological system, where the system comes back to its natural state.
Its natural balance. Yeah, right.
Yeah, your temperature is 98.6, your blood pressure is this, your heart rate is this at a healthy level. So that's a homeostasis, is when the organism comes back to its rested state. And that's what we found. We use this concept of homeostasis to describe family dynamics, and that when there's disruption in the family, and it could be any type of disruption, a child, wants to move out of the town that they grew up in. They want to live in a different town and not, carry on the family business or stay with the family, and that, or could be more substantial with real disruption, like a daughter wants a chance at running the family business. And then the system argues, it explodes in defense of that disruption. Like the body, if you have a temperature or you're sick, it fights that to get back to its baseline. So families fight to get back to its homeostasis. And so the work that we've done in an attempt is to help the system gain a new baseline, learn to be open to new concepts so that organism can then have a new homeostasis and organize back around something that's new and progressive.
Wow. It's on one level sad that it's taken so long for this to come into being, and not you guys, but that we experienced the feminist revolution back in the early 70s and earlier, in fact, when some of the forerunners were starting to bring awareness to feminist psychology and the value system that were there. And it's a concept whose time has come. And so I'm so delighted that you guys have put together this whole panel of people. The 4 co-authors and then a whole bevy of like a dozen or so other contributors to the book. It should be just a really rich read. And I like I said, I can't wait for it to hit the stands. I'm going to pre-order my copy. I've only ever seen Stacy's intro chapter, so that's all I know of it so far, but that in our conversation before. But again, it's the 6th level, and you want to just, shout out to your co-authors.
Sure. So it's the 6th level, authored by, obviously, Stacy, myself, and Kathy, and also Rachel Wallace Andreasen and Dr. Jack Harris, who is, they're both fabulous people. Rachel is a CEO and owner of a family business, and Jack is a professor of sociology and many other things for 50 years at Hobart and William Smith Colleges.
Great. My new book is out. I got to do a plug here. Oh. My new book is out. It's called Learning to Feel. Last week, it crested at number 5 on the best-selling list, and it was the number 1 hot pick for Amazon Kindle. Wow. You know, I was a bad boy over the weekend and paid attention to family and instead of marketing, and so it slipped a little bit in the polls. But I'm very proud that, you know, it seems to be striking a chord with people. There are so many things going on in our world that are causing us to have all of these emotions, and we just have you know, we're stiff-arming our emotions, and they're really the key to unlocking the inner belief system, the inner thought system that goes on that causes our reactions. You know, what emotions are for is really to cause quick reaction. They're a survival technique that we evolved with. And so what we get to look at is, well, what's the thought that causes the emotion? What's the belief that causes the thought that causes the emotion? And when we do that, then we have actually we can get to a place of choice. And so it's not about managing emotions. It's about learning and learning to feel them fully and then allow that to open up the door to inside. And so we're speaking to somebody, you know, and I think we're both on to areas in our writing that is waking up a whole new conversation. So again, thank you guys both for being here, and best of luck with the book. Take care.
Well, thanks for having us, Chris, and congratulations on your book too. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.